At the start of the story, we see a girl named Lucy and her friend Ben trying to climb a dangerous cliff in the middle of a vast desert. The climb is dangerous, but they must reach the top at any cost. Now, the story flashes back to 72 hours ago. We see Lucy with David. David is a lawyer by profession, and the two of them are traveling through an Arab country. They are also planning to get married soon. One night, while they are at a restaurant, Lucy receives a dish from a guy named Ben. However, Ben leaves without paying for it. Lucy doesn't pay much attention to this. The next morning, when Lucy and David are supposed to go on their trip, David receives a call from his company. They inform him that he has to attend a very important meeting. David tells Lucy that he can't go on the trip and that she will have to go alone. Upset, Lucy leaves because David never gives her his full attention. When Lucy arrives at the location where the trip is supposed to start, she sees Ben, the guy who ordered the dish for her the night before. Ben approaches her and mentions that he's also here to explore the desert. He knows about a very exciting place and invites Lucy to join him. However, Lucy declines. She gets into the vehicle for the trip, which is filled with many other tourists, all of whom are elderly. Lucy thinks about how she could have gone to that special place with Ben instead. Lucy settles into the vehicle and asks Ben to drive. After a long journey, they reach the place Ben had mentioned. It is indeed a beautiful spot where they can see the desert stretching out for miles. Lucy loves it here. They decide to stay there for the night. The next morning, when Lucy opens her eyes, she sees that Ben has jumped out of a parachute. Seeing this, Lucy panics because she now has to make her way down alone. Ben had left her the keys to the car and a note that said he would wait for her at the same spot until she arrives. Lucy manages to drive the car down the dangerous cliffs with great difficulty. When she reaches, Ben is waiting for her. She is angry with him because she is late now. By this time, she was supposed to be with David. Meanwhile, David is shown arriving at the tourist vehicle but realizes that Lucy hasn't arrived. He is completely stressed out. He tries calling Lucy, but her phone is out of coverage. We then see Ben and Lucy racing quickly out of the desert. But then, their car's tire gets stuck in the sand. They try hard, but the car won't move. Lucy tries to call for help, but the place is so remote that there's no network coverage. Ben says they will have to stay here until help arrives. They need to wait for someone to come. Lucy argues that she doesn't have time for this and insists they need to leave immediately. Ben points out that it's extremely hot, and they should wait until the sun sets before moving on. Lucy doesn't listen. Knowing that David must be waiting for her, she grabs her bag and a water bottle and heads off alone into the desert. After walking a long distance, Lucy becomes very thirsty. She drinks all her water and realizes she has no choice but to return. She quickly makes her way back to Ben. When she arrives, she's extremely thirsty and starts drinking from the remaining bottle Ben has. Ben tells her that they've used up their water supply and that they need to be very careful with what's left. He shows her a map and explains that they're 12 miles away from a place called Desert Paradise, a popular spot for tourists. He says that once they reach there, they will be able to find their way back to their hotel quickly. As evening falls, Lucy and Ben prepare to leave. Before they head out, Lucy leaves a map behind so that if anyone else comes across it, they will know which direction they went. David is shown going to the police and telling them that his fiancée, Lucy, is missing. The police officer assures him that they will find her soon. David even tries to bribe the officer, but the officer refuses to accept the money, as he is an honest cop. Meanwhile, Lucy and Ben are shown continuing their journey. They have started to like each other because they share similar traits. Lucy, in particular, feels this way because David never gave her much time. Lucy is frustrated with David, and now, as they continue their journey, a desert storm hits. They are forced to stay where they are for the night. When they wake up in the morning, they find themselves buried under the sand. Lucy wakes up and sees a road with passing vehicles. She is overjoyed and wakes Ben up, telling him that they have arrived. Both of them happily move forward but soon realize that there's a deep chasm between them and the road, making it almost impossible to cross. They stand there and try to signal passing vehicles, but they are so far away that no one can see them. Additionally, their water supply is running out. Feeling completely hopeless, Lucy asks Ben if they can use the parachute to cross the chasm. Ben replies that if he tries to parachute, he might land inside the chasm, which could be fatal. Now either of them knows what to do. Meanwhile, David learns that Lucy is with Ben. David also finds a person who knows where Ben and Lucy are. He sends 2 of his men to help David to reach the location of Lucy and Ben. Lucy and Ben start walking along the side of the deep, wide chasm, hoping to find a place where they can cross. However, after walking for a long time, the chasm seems endless, and they become extremely exhausted. Now, both their food and water are completely gone. They rest for a while under the rocks. When they wake up, Ben decides to try crossing the deep chasm with the parachute. However, Lucy stops him, knowing that it could be life-threatening. Instead, Lucy suggests that they climb down from the rocks, go into the chasm, and then climb up the other side. They agree on this plan and start climbing the rocks. As they climb down, they reach the same place where the story began. While climbing, Lucy slips and ends up hanging from the rock. Ben climbs up to help her. As he tries to help her, Ben falls down from the top, and Lucy also falls. After some time, when Lucy regains consciousness, she sees that Ben is badly injured and can no longer move. Meanwhile, David arrives at the place with the two men and finds Lucy's car. There, David discovers Lucy's camera, which she had left behind. When he reviews the footage, he sees recordings of Lucy and Ben, showing them very happy together. David feels hurt and betrayed, thinking that Lucy left him and is now happy with Ben. As a result, he decides to stop searching for her. Lucy and Ben are shown as being completely desperate. They never reached the bottom of the canyon. As they descended a bit, Lucy's foot slipped, and they ended up stuck in the canyon. Lucy decides to try crossing the canyon using the parachute. After a lot of effort, her parachute starts to lift off. But as she is about to cross, a change in the wind direction causes her parachute to fall back into the canyon. When she lands, Lucy loses consciousness. When Lucy wakes up, she sees a girl in front of her. She follows the girl and reaches a nearby village, where many people are gathered. Exhausted, Lucy collapses as soon as she arrives near the village. After gaining consciousness, she tells villagers about Ben. Villagers help Lucy by rescuing Ben, who is still at the top, and they bring him to their place. Later that night, Ben regains consciousness and is relieved and happy to see that Lucy and him both are safe. Two men who were with David and had came with the intention of finding Lucy and Ben have managed to reach Ben and Lucy. They tell Lucy and Ben to get in their car, but David was not with them. In fact, the two men had tied David up and kept him in back of their car. The men then asked Ben and Lucy where they should drop them off. Ben said their car was stuck in the desert, in a remote area. He asked them to take them to their car. The men agreed and took them there. Once they arrived, some dangerous criminal traders appeared in the wilderness. These traders are criminals who buy and sell people. The two men who came with David are part of this human trafficking ring. David is tied up in their car. The traders buy David and Ben for $20,000 each. When it's Lucy's turn, the traders start fighting among themselves, firing guns, which leads to everyone being killed. Now only one trader is left. Before he can take everyone away, Ben seizes the opportunity and shoots him. Among the two men who came with David, one has been killed, and the other escapes with the car. This leaves only one car available, which is a Benz. David tries to pull the car out, but Lucy tells him it's useless. The car cannot make it out of there. Meanwhile, Ben, who is critically injured and is nearing his last moments, tells Lucy that if she lets the air out of the car tires, they will be able to get the car out. Lucy is completely surprised by this and asks why he didn't suggest it earlier. He explains that when he first saw her at the restaurant, he liked her right away and wanted her to come along with him. He felt she was wonderful and wanted to spend more time with her, so he kept the idea letting air out of tire to himself. He tells that he knows the entire desert well and is familiar with every route, but perhaps her company was more important to him. Hearing this, Lucy feels touched and good. They all leave the place in the car and head home. On the way, Lucy returns David's ring, which he had given her when he proposed. She gives it back because the time she spent with Ben was precious to her, something David never provided. And with that, the story comes to an end. I hope you enjoyed this movie.